Let's get ready to rumble. That's right. All right. It's not going to be a rumble. It's going to be a little fun. We got Truth Will Set You Free number 22. We've got our lovely guest. We got a new face in here. We've got a co-host, Curtis Harkness, that you've seen many times before. Aaron Small's unfortunately not able to make it for a few weeks. Apparently, in the world of 2020, you gotta avoid a little bit of politics when you're trying to make sure politically you get some gigs. Can't fault him for it. Still love him. Cash going through some stuff. Don't know if he's gonna make it tonight. I'm going with the probably not, but we've got the face of a legend, Curtis Harkness, and we've got Jay Kennedy. You've seen before, our favorite liberal friend. Our only liberal friend. I'm just kidding. We've got a few, and we've actually been growing in great liberal voices on this network to have great conversations with. We approach things from a place of peace and understanding. And of course, a new guest. We've got a libertarian. They're not extinct, ladies and gentlemen. Casey Rasmussen. I should probably have asked how he pronounced his last name. We're going to be talking about Trump versus the coronavirus, debate fallout, VP debate preview, as well as... That's right. Some chat about Trump nixing talks on the stimulus package. Oh, Aaron heard me. Aaron still loves me. I still love you too, Aaron. We miss you. Oh, Curtis, never mind. He does not love you. Sorry about that. So we've got started. Please share this out. We've already got a good group of people. We've got 60 out there. Share it. We're going to have a great conversation tonight. We're going to get this done. Hi, Carolyn. Everybody put in the box. Start commenting. Hearts, stars, etc. Everything that you can do. Explode this out there. Now I have something to stay awake for. I do not hear that from many women. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate that. It's fantastic. All right. I'm going to do a 30-second countdown. Then we're going to get the party started. Marianne Frisk. Hello from New Hampshire. Emily Pierce. What's going on? Truth will set you free beginning in about 20 seconds. Time for the countdown. Hey, Shelly. What's going on? Everybody start commenting in the box. The more comments, the better. Please make sure you hit the hearts, the likes, the thumbs up, the laughing faces like Melanie just did, because I made a self-deprecating joke. Who doesn't love self-deprecation? All right, let's get the party started. Thank you guys for joining. Truth will set you free. Again, current event show, Trump versus coronavirus, debate fallout, VP debate preview, and maybe a little bit about Trump nixing the talks on the stimulus package. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Truth Will Set You Free. It'll be over soon. The beginning thing will be over soon. I promise people. It's how I often start out my dates, my first dates with people. It'll be over soon. Don't worry. Curtis has the shirt on as well as his mute level where he says, I'm too creative for 9 to 5. That's fantastic. He's also too creative to know how to unmute his microphone. Curtis, what's going on?
Yes, because it's late.
This is a special late night edition. That's what's going on.
That's why I'm too creative.
Shelly won't be here tonight. Maybe I might do a second version. We might do a part 2 tomorrow night post VP debates. I don't know. That might be a good segue. I don't want to go too long tonight. What's that, Curtis?
VP debates tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, have you been living under a rock? What work have you been doing?
I've been working. That's been a blessing, by the way. But I won't get into what I need from the government to help continue working. But we'll get going. Let
my people go. Well, anyways, today's a big day. I drove back from Austin, Texas, up to Dallas. I worked at the first event, and that's actually news. It was an auto writers event. It was very interesting to see who showed up, who didn't. They wanted to check out some new vehicles, some new trucks, etc. It was pretty cool stuff. A lot of social distancing. They were making sure to sanitize the cars. It's a whole new world. Very interesting.
I just did BMW this past weekend.
Did you?
At a racetrack. We did racetracks track day. It's really cool. The same thing, social distance. Every time they got out of the cars, it was like clean. It's crazy.
I'm not going to lie. Somebody got in my car. He had a Trump sticker on the back of his phone. Immediately, we looked at each other. I put a fist out. We fist bumped and pulled our mask down. I'm not going to lie. It happened. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I mean, just no, you don't get Rezimavir. I can't even say that word. Like the
Rezimavir. First off, also, that's some good stuff from good news. And I hope that no matter anybody that's watching, liberal or conservative, Trump is doing better. Trump is back in the White House. He's working. Again, we can even we'll talk about the coronavirus. I mean, there's a whole bunch of philosophies we can go into. Also, I noticed something last night. I started doing a little research, a little side research. Fun fact, a lot of countries right now are having a very large resurgence of coronavirus, which a lot of countries like Italy and Great Britain and France, their percentages are getting very, very close against.
Britain never really went down.
True. But France and Italy had that big spike. They're having a little bubble resurgence. France is going through the roof again. A lot of these other countries are having issues. So again, when people start saying we are the worst in the world at this, it's untrue. Everybody is struggling. I also have been talking to somebody from Australia, from Melbourne, that moved out here. And she moved because she couldn't be a part of it anymore. They had lockdowns. Their numbers were decent, but they had lockdowns to the point where the police would call you if you were out past 5 p.m. They all had phone numbers. Like you were getting checked in on like you were at summer camp in a uber Christian pro virginity camp at the age of like 17. It was super weird.
That's definitely not how it works. It's called when you go on a trip for band, they tape your doors. So.
Wow, it's weird, super weird. And yes, Timothy is right. That's the other thing. Their numbers aren't as high percentage-wise, but our mortality rate is much lower. Anyways, with that said, let's go ahead. What was that, Curtis? Did you want to throw in a non-actual number?
I was just going to say all rates are bad because it's mortality. So yeah, that's nothing to really to get happy about or to use as
true. I am sad that people in France and Italy are dying. That is a bad thing. That is not my intention on that. I'm just saying
I don't even like to use the mortality rate anymore because every death is very important. So I just say we're not on lockdown.
My point is that we are all in this together. The last thing I want to say is, guys, I need your help. I know you guys have helped me out in the past. I would love for your help again. We are first off, before I say the Patreon stuff, because we are all I'm trying to do is cover the cost of all these different shows, and we've got a new one coming up with Emily Robbins. If you've seen her, she was on the our thing this last Sunday with Jeff Markinet Jr. She's going to have her own show. She's got guests lined up. It's going to be amazing. Probably turning that into a podcast. Just need some help. And I'll keep this rolling throughout the show. But if you could help us out on Patreon, super easy to find us. www.patreon.com/BeTheChange I'm not looking to make money. I'm looking to cover my costs. So if any help you guys can give, that would be huge. If you support us, if you support what we're doing, if you support the message of having people have a conversation from both sides, please help us out and sharing positivity, because we are doing more shares of positivity, which, if you notice today, I shared a post that was actually from our Streetlights group, which is in the 20 pages that are set up across the country. So thank you for that. We're going to share more and more positivity, more positive stories, more information, more knowledge, and grow this podcast network. Speaking of podcast, if you haven't already, please go to our podcast. You can find them here, or easiest thing to do is just go here. You can find them all there. #BeTheChange.com/podcast. And find them there. Last but not least, we've got these cool Unite Don't Fight shirts. Be a streetlight because only you can be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the Change hats. We've got new stuff coming in, and hopefully in a couple weeks, I said about a month, and now we're at a couple weeks, I'll start putting in sweatshirt orders as well. So that's the gist. That's our selling point. That's how I try to stay out of the homeless population since the stimulus check wasn't passed, and I am currently out of work. Anyways. We'll get started. Let's go ahead and get started with the show. I'm going to keep this rolling if anybody wants to see, not the merchandise one, but the Patreon. Please help. Please. Okay. I'm going to introduce our guest. You guys already know this gentleman. You've seen him on many shows before. Great liberal just concepts, and he brings it from a place of peace, understanding, and facts. He's got his facts. He's got his reasons. We talk about why we shouldn't project our own reasons on other people. And we get along on Facebook now, even when we have little quabbles on each other's page. It's fantastic. So give it up for Mr. Jay, Renee, I am
he
kind
is
of
a-
working. What's that?
He is a Patriots fan, so that's why he's really cool. Because he's a
Right.
Patriot. He's a
Jay
Patriot.
Kennedy, what's going on, brother?
Hello, everybody. What's up, boys? How you doing?
Living
What's
the
up, my
dream. What's
Patriot
going on in
brother?
your world?
R.I.P. Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say today. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was sad. That's a big
Yep.
deal. Hot
Yep.
for teacher.
Mhm.
With that said, that's Jay. He's got his red solo cup, which means he's drinking. Probably a good idea for anybody out there. And then we're going to introduce our first libertarian guest on the show, which a lot of us, I think, have libertarian ideals. Even Jay talked about his leaning somewhat libertarian on a lot of issues. Curtis, we still don't know where he is. He's very secretive. Not sure.
You don't know. We'll slide up in there. It's late. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's not. Curtis is not a night owl. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, Casey Rasmussen. Casey, you are muted. Did I do that to you? Oops.
Is he a rock band?
Good.
There you go.
Thanks,
Casey,
what
how do
up,
I
everyone?
pronounce your last name?
It's Rasmussen.
Rasmussen.
Rasmussen. It's a
Casey,
rock
tell us a little
band.
bit about yourself. You're new to the show. Let's hear what you got going on, where you're from, what your zodiac sign is, etc.
Zodiac sign. Jeez. All right. I'm just your average guy. I'm a fellow. I love working on tech stuff and just experimenting and learning new things. But mostly, I'm trying to get involved in politics and trying to drive things to where we can have more unity. I don't like how everybody's so divided today, and I want us to start getting together so we can really solve these problems and really drive the things to what we need to get to.
Are you a lifelong libertarian?
Yeah, other than being of course, I had some family influence early on when I got to vote, and then I started researching and learning, and then I spread my wings from there.
Nice. And then because you and I were talking a little bit before the show, you're kind of which technically he ran in the Republican race, but you're kind of a Ron Paul Republican or Ron Paul Libertarian per se, correct?
Big time. Ron Paul is what opened my eyes and got me to where I'm at today. And so that's where the Paul family in general, Rand is a little bit different than Ron, but I do appreciate a lot of those guys of following them and learning what they have actually taught me and where I'm at right now.
Excellent. Love it. All right. So here's our panel for the show. This is what we're going to do. We got it going on. Please share this out right now. Again, we're going to show people how to have a peaceful conversation. Anthony, it's kind of creepy that you're watching us in bed right now. I hope you are fully dressed. But no, we're going to have a great conversation about these topics, and we're going to hopefully the whole purpose of Be the Change when we do the political stuff is to present ideas, get to the bottom of what really is truth, what is opinion. We're all allowed to have opinions, but we want to make sure we know the difference between fact and opinion, and also show that you can have a productive conversation with people from across the aisle that are different from you. So let's get it started hot. I actually, since we'll do chronological order. So let's go with the debate fallout per se. We did a live stream. Was the debate only a week ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot's happened in a week.
Yeah.
For a year that seemed to not move in 2020, I feel like the debates are like 3 weeks ago. No matter if since then we've managed to have a president come down with corona. We've had so much happen. So let's first talk about the debate. Curtis, I don't think you and I talked much after the debate on this one. So what did you think of the debate?
I will say this. I was proud to be an American with two potential, they were both leaders at one point of our country, how they acted with each other. It's, to me, if we can be civil on this show, like, we're not presidents, and of course nothing against you, Casey or Jay, especially against Anthony though, then I would expect the president and the ex-vice president to be able to react like, to act like adults. I don't think it was a good example for our children or for people in the youth looking up to leaders. And there are celebrities that say, hey, I'm not a person you should look up to. I'm just a celebrity, but these are leaders. And leaders are people who have to be people that people look up to. People are going to vote for them. And, I don't like to go on the Trump didn't denounce this or Biden didn't say this on some of the smaller things because, I look at it as how we act as our character. And if you don't let two things, And again, like I was on both sides. It wasn't perfect. Trump not letting Biden speak and speaking over Biden and not following rules that were set, I believe, by both administrations, or was it just his? It was very disheartening to me. And then also Biden not answering some of the questions directly, and also kind of not like finishing some of the things he was supposed to say, even without Trump, actually. And this is not saying competence, but just saying he didn't finish it and went to like vote and just vote. I'm like, no, give me a little bit more answer. I need a little bit more. And
I'll give you some specific questions in a sec. I want the general lay down of what you guys thought. So Jay, what did you think overall of the debate?
I don't want to belabor. I think everything Curtis just said was I agree with 100%. I don't want to belabor, step on any of your points. I think that it definitely didn't change anybody's mind in any candidate's base. I think probably a lot of Trump's base appreciated the fact that he was a bully. You know what I mean? That's kind of part of his MO. He wasn't like that the entire debate, but he was like that for a good portion of it. And I'd imagine there's some of his fans that love that. And I think people who are in Biden's camp, like, I'm going to vote for Biden. I don't love him, but I'm going to vote for him. I don't think he changed anyone's mind there either. I think that he had a very low bar to set for himself, which he passed. He proved himself to be somewhat competent. Prior to the debate, a lot of people were talking about him being senile or, whatever other words you want to use for that. He didn't come across that way. To Curtis's point, he certainly didn't finish all of his points. He didn't answer a lot of the questions that were asked of him. I am curious whether anyone who's undecided, which, by the way, I can't understand how anybody in this election could be undecided at this point. That makes no sense to me. Who's looking at these two candidates going, I don't know. But I do wonder. I feel like Biden probably came out on top because I don't think politically anyone's going to change their mind after that. I feel like the only thing that might happen for anyone, quote unquote, undecided was that maybe they'd be turned off by some of what Trump did, some of his bullying and some of his yelling and stuff like that. Another point, just one last point I want to make is, even though I'm on, Team Biden at this point, it was pretty interesting the way Chris Wallace came at the debate. I don't think he was an opponent for Trump, but he was certainly on that side of things for sure. 60-40, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think the Wallace thing's interesting because Wallace ended up near the end challenged Biden a little bit, but he went hard at Trump early and got him lit up. And I'll give my opinion in a second. I want Casey to weigh in, but I have one of the direct questions I was going to have for you. But Casey, what do you think of it as somebody that knew that they probably were not voting for either candidate? What did you get from it?
No, in my opinion, I'm not speaking on behalf of all the Americans. We need to expect more from our leaders. And that is the biggest point. When I saw that, I had many swear words posted on Facebook that night. Like, it was very disappointing. And to talk a little bit about when Jay said no one is undecided, I honestly think the people that are undecided are just not going to vote. And so we need to really have more people participate in our elections, and our leaders need to represent to get them to vote. That's where the undecided comes in, not which one. It's how do we get more participation? But you guys killed it. You guys knocked it out of the park on everything. Like, it was a bad debate. Tomorrow will be better, which we'll touch on in a minute.
Yeah. So to be honest, I'm obviously Team Trump, but at the same time, people, when we were doing the live stream, I was sick to my stomach. People even like, I haven't seen Russo smile in 2 hours. Cash got off the video when the white supremacy issue came up with him not denouncing, which I'll talk about in a second. But I think that it was a failure on his part. But when I reread the tape, it's interesting. I don't think it was as big of a failure. Problem is perception is reality. So ultimately, when you look at the debate, again, both guys failed miserably at the job of leading a country into a civil debate. Trump was a little bit more of a bully. I think Trump was doing a successful job early of getting Biden off his game because it is a game, and I understand that. But he could have put the foot off the pedal because he did what he was trying to do, which was get Biden sidetracked, and his mind just screwed. And Saturday Night Live, although they were way too heavy on Trump, there still was some humor in the debate that they showed because it really was Biden's who played Biden, Jay?
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. He did these things where he was like waiting for Trump to interrupt him, but he didn't really have anything to say. Like he was loving that Trump was interrupting him mid-sentence because it was giving him an out, because he really did not have the answers to a lot of the questions. So he was like stumbling, and then Trump would go, you don't. And then Biden would just go, well, he's interrupting me. He should have let Biden dig his own grave, in my opinion, as a Trump supporter. He executed it, and then he didn't finish off the execution. So I think from that level, it was painful for me to watch. The white supremacy thing, I stayed away from social media of answering people's questions, because the next day for me, all I've had to answer is, that's the dog. All I've had to answer is President Trump is a racist. President Trump is this. And then the next day, there was no way for me to go back at that and not. So I avoided literally having that, because I'm like, I don't think he failed, but he made it harder on his supporters. And that was a huge issue for me. And that was a problem. Now, with that said, Wallace was brutal to start. We kind of already touched on that. Curtis, you didn't get to say anything. How do you think Wallace affected the debate?
Well, I mean, Wallace, I think, and this is something that is a assumption of why it was like that. Fox News is, of course, more right-leaning, and Fox News definitely has a much better rapport with President Trump. But at the same time, to not be seen as like you're trying to be friends with Trump, I think they were trying to be a little bit more tough, because Wallace wants to seem like he's not just in Trump's pocket. Now, I think
everybody knew Wallace isn't in his pocket, though. Wallace and Trump have always butted heads.
Well, Wallace is still pretty soft, even though it says it's pretty hard, but it's still pretty soft compared to like somebody coming at the president, like trying to get him on facts and stuff, not saying if different things here or there are wrong or not. But Wallace, I think, and this is again my assumption, what I thought, but like when he was coming hard, it wasn't as hard as it got as Trump kept interrupting. And I'm not gonna lie, if I'm a person and I'm the moderator, and I've been a moderator at debates and discussions and actually, mediations, and people keep cutting me off, I'm going to be more firm on the person who keeps cutting me off and talking over me and not letting the other person talk, because it's like, what are you doing? Stop talking. This person's tired of talking. And my parents would do the same thing if you were a child and you would not let the brother speak, which that was me at one point.
Right. But it started out pretty hot, though, before it even got to the interrupting phase.
Well, that's what I said. I said, I think he had a chip on the shoulder.
Yeah.
To prove. And then it just got worse because Trump did what he did. Not saying that all of the tactics, again, it was a tactic for some of them to come at him, which, again, you got to do what you got to do. This is not just a friendly debate, but at the same time, it just went over the bounds. And I think Chris Wallace couldn't handle it because he was like,
yeah, Chris. I think Chris failed. I think everybody across the board failed.
Somebody mama in there. They need like a mama, like an 80-year-old mama, just like shut up, and just like
So here's my next question, because you talked about like kind of strategy and stuff like this. So I don't necessarily fully agree, but I think it's an interesting point. I don't know if you guys know who Dan Bongino is. He brought up that Trump actually perfectly executed his plan. And this is why.
What did he say that? Where did he say this at?
So Dan Bongino, he's a Fox, he does some Fox News stuff. He's a light-skinned African-American dude. I think he's an ex-police. I'm not sure. He's always very stern and stubborn and whatever. And I'm like, I'm not going to let him sway how I felt it went, because I did not like it, but I do see his point. So unlike a lot of elections, this is not an election where people are fighting for the middle ground. They're fighting to ignite their base to make sure they go vote, to make sure they get out there and vote. So he said, look at what Trump did. Trump, if you talk to all Trump supporters and Trump voters, what did they say? I don't really like how he did in the debate. Are you still going to vote for Trump? Well, yeah, I just don't like how he did in the debate. And then you look at, and as Jay said, if you don't know who you're voting for right now, it's pretty shocking. So what he did get Biden to do is he got him to denounce the police. He got them to denounce defunding the police. He denounced the Green New Deal. He pretty much slammed Bernie Sanders in there. He's like, no, I'm the selection. He slammed kind of Bernie Sanders supporters, and he in general may have weakened the strength behind him for people to go, he's not really my guy either, and maybe not go vote. So that was what Bongino said, is it's a base election more than any other base election in history. his point was to get Trump or to get Biden to go away from the progressive left. Do you agree, Casey?
I agree what he did. That might have been his motive. Do I support it? No. My opinion is we as a country, we need to unite and we need to actually elect a leader to be able to guide us in the proper direction. Is Trump going to do that? Possibly. Biden, if he hasn't done it in 47 years, I don't know if he's going to do it now. And that's kind of where I'm at with him. But the bigger thing is when it comes to what you just said, it makes a whole lot of sense. And yeah, Trump did do a lot of weird things that I wasn't expecting. However, it's against what I want. I want the American people to get out, vote, and make their voice heard. And then we can actually have a president we can all be proud of, or a majority be proud of. Right now, when we only have 60% voting in a presidential election, that's not a good number. We got to be up in the 80s or 90%. And that's what I want to see us doing better at.
Gotcha. Jay, what do you think on what could have been his plan there?
I mean, I think it could have been the effects. I think we're giving him, and this isn't even an anti-Trump comment. I just think it's too Jedi mind trick. I think we're giving, or Bongiano is giving him too much credit there. I think that's a bit
possible,
complicated. I mean, come on. Again, we're not talking about a Rhodes Scholar here, although apparently his justice pick is a Rhodes Scholar.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
Yeah,
she went to Rhodes College. She's not a Rhodes Scholar. That was corrected. And Kayleigh McEnany, when she was called on it, by the way, goes, "I apologize." She admitted her mistake.
Well, she admitted she was wrong for once. Anyways, it's been the effect, but it's certain. I find it really hard to believe that Trump, again, not even against Trump, just that anybody could go, okay, I'm playing 12-layer chess here, and I'm going to make Joe Biden say that. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem very, very likely to me. It may have had that effect, to your point. And I hope that's not the case, because the last thing in the world that I want is 4 more years of Donald Trump in the White House. So I hope he's wrong. But I do think he's wrong that's what Trump was trying to do. I think Trump was playing a caricature of himself, which is really difficult to do because he's already kind of a caricature. But I mean, that's essentially what he was at the debate.
He was Alec Baldwin playing him in that moment. As much as I really have no longer become a fan of SNL, I was like, you are becoming exactly what everybody thought you were going to be.
Yeah.
All right, Curtis, what do you think to Bongino's statement?
Talking to people who were undecided was really cool because people have been reaching out. And I love this platform that we have. So people reach out and say, "Hey, Curtis, I'm undecided." When we were talking about it, I was like, "Who are you going to vote for?" And I was like, I didn't want to talk about it. I had about 4 or 5 people reach out, so they were undecided. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me know what you think after debate. It was a weird reaction. Everybody, of course, had the same, like, we don't like it. That was horrible. But some of the people that, like 2 out of the 4 were like, well, I actually like that Biden denounced a lot of the far left things. And I was like, okay. They were like, we weren't on board with that because we're not really that far left. We're more left leaning, but in the middle. And then the other 2 were like, well, we don't know, we're still thinking about it. And, we really didn't get anything from it. They were still I think they kind of got the smoke screen of so much that was going on. And I told them, I said, well, take a second, think about it and go back and look at it, And of course they're like, well, Trump didn't denounce this. Biden, was talking about Green New Deal, but then he changed his deal. And I was like, guys, take a second, make sure you look back at it another day, because a lot of times, like you said, Anthony, if you go back and read things, you can see sometimes what you hear is a different perception, or something you might miss something. So it was pretty interesting to hear that with some of the people actually were happy that Biden denounced some of those far left things, because they're like, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not that far. But they were like, we're undecided because if Biden's that far left, we're going to go right. And that's a very fine line in the middle, because somebody was telling me, it was this older gentleman, he was like, Curtis, there's a lot more people in the middle still. It's just people don't want to be they're worried about which way to go. They don't want to be too far left. They don't want to be too far right. And so I think, what Bongino said could be true. But again, I kind of agree with Jay that I don't think Trump came up with that. Now, maybe Trump had somebody in his group, in his corner, that came up with that. And he's got a lot of good strategists in his corner. Because I will say this, Trump has a great marketing team. You can't even lie.
Business.
Yeah, you bankrupt a bunch of things, you still get a bunch of money, and then like he did a really good job of rallying his supporters in his first what is it called, election run. So
I'm gonna since you brought up the taxes, we're not going to talk about taxes. I'm gonna actually set the record straight on the fact or not fact on that one. So here's a fun fact about that $750. There's a lot of rumors that says $750, and then there's some people that say if you actually look, there's an alternative tax that he paid that was in the $17 to $20 million a year thing. Here's what's interesting. In this day and age, the fact checkers, factcheck.org, PolitiFact, all these different Snopes, they will come out with their fact check even before they can even give an answer. They will say undetermined, undecided. As of 2 days ago, if you were to go on any of those websites and say
that was planned.
Yeah. If you were to go on any of those websites, they don't even have an answer. They don't even have it started. They don't have the conversation started. It is a completely baseless statement that was a campaign ploy. Whether or not he's done it or not, I don't know. I can tell you, and I said this last week, I said from the very beginning in 2016, he probably didn't pay any taxes, but we don't know. And that whole 750 thing is a complete sham until we have more facts. And the fact that it's not being covered by the fact checks, I can tell you something's wrong and fishy with it. So let's ditch that discussion until we hear more.
Well, I didn't say anything about 750. I'm talking about businesses that were bankrupt, that were public.
Right. Well, that's
exactly.
part of America.
Red herring.
Like
That is
Atlantic City.
taxes.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about taxes. I can't talk on hearsay because that's New York Times. No offense.
I had
I'll
somebody
wait till it comes out.
Fun fact, I had somebody on a Facebook debate the other day when I questioned, because all they had was New York Times. I said, do you have a cross-reference on that? And they're like, the New York Times has been around since 100 years before I was born. Of course, why would I need another fact check? I'm like, we're not going to have a discussion. We are not even going to get into this. So anyways, all right. I didn't mean to, that was a curveball because the last thing I want to talk about the fallout was, of course, the white supremacy comment. So I want to read the actual transcript because, again, I was livid when I heard it. And I know Cash was too. He went on Instagram and he was like, why wouldn't you just do it? So Wallace says, are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups? Trump says, sure, which we've also played videos in the past of how many times he's done this. And I almost feel that, like, after a couple days of thinking about it, this feels like me when people are like, you like Trump? Are you a racist? No. How many times do I have to say it? So, all right, I'll go back. Wallace, are you willing to condemn white supremacists and militia groups? This was right after Wallace had just talked. The whole conversation was on the civil unrest, the rioting, the looting, which even bringing up white supremacist groups in this manner makes zero sense at this point. Trump says, sure. Wallace, and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha, as we've seen in Portland. The white supremacists have nothing to do with the violence. Now, that changed this week. There was a fight, but they have nothing to do with any of the previous 7% of destruction, riots, etc. Trump, sure, I'm prepared to do it. I would say almost anything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing. I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace. Wallace says, then do it, sir. Biden says, do it, say it. Trump says, what do you want me to call them? Give me a name. Wallace says, white supremacists and right-wing militias. And then Biden pipes in, who also, as I will in my opinion, has zero clue about anything going on in this country, says Proud Boys. Proud Boys is not even a blip on the radar at this point, and he labeled them as white supremacists, and it turns out they're not. Trump says, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. Stand by was an interesting statement, clearly showing that Trump knows who the Proud Boys are, but I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left. So did he condemn white supremacy? Not really, but saying, sure, I will, give me a group. KKK was not mentioned, any of those groups not mentioned in it. Biden himself brought up a completely random group and brought up Proud Boys out of nowhere, which has nothing to do with the violence. So did Trump not condemn white supremacy? In my opinion, after rereading the transcript, no. I think he just didn't get the proper question. And at the end, he said, sure. So technically that's kind of answering the question. But why was that? And here's my question for you guys, now that I brought it up. I'll start with Jay. Why was that the question when talking about looting, rioting, and burning down cities, violence in the streets? Why did they direct that question at Trump and not once ask anything of Biden regarding the Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which he also called a non-existent group, which has been definitely proven wrong. So, Jake, go ahead.
I can't answer. I don't know why Wallace asked him that. I mean, I have no idea why, but I can speculate as to why he keeps getting the question. And by the way, I agree with you. I don't think it's fair that people don't realize that Trump has condemned white supremacy over and over and over again. However, I think it is fair to wonder why people keep asking him that. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that on a weekly, if not more basis, I know people are sick of the term, but the dog whistles that come out of his mouth are endless and they're constant. And he's constantly referencing things or saying things or quoting segregationists
he gets called out for every question he has. So I want to say something that I heard Biden say today, which I was like, if Trump said this, it was the biggest dog whistle in history. Biden in a speech today, he was saying he was making a speech about they called it a speech about unity. He said, Biden said not to have, or he said, I tell you not to have your fist clenched, but an open hand, which is technically, if Trump said it, would be a direct reference of Black Lives Matter and Black Panthers to tell them that this is bullshit. That would have been a direct dog whistle out of Biden's mouth. It was reported even by Fox News as an attempt at unity.
Well,
to me, that's bullshit.
I would say it speaks to that's open to interpretation, and I think it speaks to the character of each.
Everything's open to interpretation, Jay.
I know, but you have to look at the character of each candidate. Politics aside, the character of one guy is one thing, and the character of the other guy is the other thing. And you're right.
I'm going to keep challenging you, Jay. You're talking about a guy that's got a history of racist policies and his 47 years of government, whether he talks about wanting to help the Black community now, you're saying you're literally discounting his history and saying, no, but he's a good guy and Trump's not, when his policies, even if you want to say that they're just placating a base, they're actually for the African-American community. So why is his character judged more than the guy that actually 30 years ago called it a racial jungle?
Have you
40 years ago was for prison.
If you're questioning why we're questioning Trump's character instead of Biden's, I don't even know where to start, dude. Like, look at these two guys. Like, of course we're questioning Trump's character. He has no character. He's a terrible human being.
He's a bad
human being.
Why?
What's that?
Why is he a despicable human being? I'm sticking with you for a bit on this one because I knew that I wanted to have this conversation. Why is he a despicable human being?
I mean, where do we start? 27 sexual assault charges with like 9 or 10 rape charges thrown in there. Racist, like horrible racist things throughout the years that he said. He was sued by the state of New York for not renting to Black people in the 70s and lost. He's bankrupted 1 million businesses.
I'll answer one by one.
Maniac. I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with this person.
So I'm going to answer your question of that they keep bringing up the thing in the 70s. First off, that was his corporation that was sued. And at the time, any real estate owner in that area, and I don't know if Curtis would agree or disagree on this one, real estate owners during that age, it was open season on them if there was any kind of discrimination, and it was a changing of the tide, which is a good thing. At the same time, he wasn't the manager of all of his properties. Any major real estate developer during that time had legal issues that they would settle or lose at that time. That's a known fact of all major real estate in the 70s and 80s. He also received awards about diversity in his actual places. I'm getting bit to living shit right now.
He's lived a full life. I'll give you that. He's lived a full life.
Go ahead, Curtis.
I will say this, right? And this is something that, as a business owner and as a leader, I have to, and in other things, we've all been in leading positions before. We're not always in control of everything, but we're the leader. We set the tone. We set the culture, and we tell everybody what to do. We tell our generals what to do. If somebody loses a war, you don't blame all the generals. You blame the person who's in charge. If somebody bankrupts a company, if these guys or companies are going bad, they fire people, but who usually gets fired? The CEO. We just saw it. If the Texans lose 4 games in a row, who gets fired? The coach. And so this is how I look at it in business. If I'm over a business and the business gets in trouble, then I don't go back and I'm over it.
That's fair.
I've gotten in trouble before over
I see what you're getting at. No, that makes sense.
I have to take that responsibility. Now, if I take that responsibility and change, then that's a good thing of saying I learned something and I've moved on and I've gotten better. And so that's where if we see even more change in these things, because the real estate wasn't just that
Curtis,
Trump.
wouldn't change be a 10-year program with the HBCUs, prison reform, opportunity zones, whether or not they work or not? Casey, I'll get to you in a second. You're talking about all these changes, but if we're going back to the 70s, a dealing that was done part of business in that era, we go back to the 70s on both of them. And at the time, Biden was calling it a racial jungle and still hanging out with the known segregationalists. I know the segregationalists changed his tune in the early 2000s, but at the time, they were all part of a bullshit system, so we'd have to rule them all out. And technically, the actual crime bill that was Biden's bill in 2016, he still did. And sorry, I'm raising my voice. I'm getting bit to living hell, so it hurts. So he legitimately stood by the bill that incarcerated more black people than anything in the modern history in the last 40 years. And he still said, that was my bill. Hell yeah, man. Whereas Trump is doing all these things, but you're talking, the whole core we're talking about is because you're saying, well, based on his character, you got to judge him. You got to give him, we are giving Biden a complete open free world that he is a non-racist, non-child sniffer, here's the last thing. Have you, we talk about Trump hanging out with all these people during the 70s, 80s, black, white, letting black people into his club. First one in Florida. He had black friends all the way across. Before Biden, how many times have you seen Biden in a picture with a black person? Oh, wait.
I don't know.
So why are we judging Trump so hard on his character? Casey, go ahead.
No, you're good. You made my exact point. My bigger problem is we're judging just one person by this. We can't look at it evenly. Ultimately, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting Libertarian. I'll be voting for Joe Jorgensen. But ultimately, when everybody claims Trump is a racist, they bring up the huge history that all of these claims, like the 70s or whatever. But he also just signed a long-term deal for black colleges that Obama wouldn't even do. He just kept stringing them along. When Trump's like, why do we have to meet so often? This is not real. Like, let's just get something done and move on. And so those are things that I look at that we really need to focus on as efficiency and how we can move and not just focus on these things and nitpick on one person. If we want to do it, let's do it evenly or bring up multiple people in their history. Like Biden, Anthony already brought it up. Like Biden's history is sketchy at most as being in senator. And then you bring Kamala Harris in the mix. Oh man, it gets even worse being in California. And so it's like, you can't claim just Trump is the worst person on the planet and never touch the other side. That's the part that we got to start talking about and being fair.
Valid. All right.
I will say really quick. I will say really quickly to that, Casey. Obama did try. He just did not have the same support in the government when he did Congress. I do know that because Obama did communicate over 1,000 sentences of people with things that aren't even right. Now, when I look at who Trump has communicated, is that right? No, get somebody fact check me on that word. It's nowhere near close, and there's certain people on there that should not have got any kind of leniency on any of those things that they, some of the things that they've done. In my opinion, I'm not a judge or the jury, so don't take that as fact. So I look at it, and this is one thing I will say as a black man looking at President Obama when he was president. There are some things that I look at, and I go, wow, this government is not doing the simple things that I think should be done that Obama was talking about. And then I look at what Trump has done and I go, this is ridiculous. Obama tried almost the same exact thing. And a friend of mine goes, Curtis, do you see that there's a big difference of Obama and Trump in who is in power? And I go, yeah, I know. Unfortunately, as a black man, I go, yeah, he's got away with some things that Obama would never get away with because, unfortunately, he was a mixed man, but seen as black. And that was Obama. Now, I'm not giving him a pass on everything he's done and all the things he didn't do. Of course, I'm a black person, but at the same time, I do have an understanding that there were some people in that Congress and still there that might have grown up in some eras that weren't so nice in America, that have probably voted on some things that weren't nice for Americans. And, again, I can't judge them on their past, because again, hopefully they've changed. So that's all I want to say. A lot of times always people bring it up and I go, if you look at what Obama did, he did do a lot of trying to get those sentences commuted, and he just, when you put something out there, you have people come out and say, we're not going to do anything you want. And that was words from John Boehner. People forget him. Then it's kind of like I sit back and go, like, this isn't real government. What are we doing? We need to work together. So
yeah. All right, Jay, I'll let you respond to that because I know I came at you pretty hard, but
no, all good.
And I cut you off. I'm sorry, Jay.
No worries. Neither of you guys. That's what we're doing here. Just one quick point. I'm not defending the crime bill that you mentioned with Biden, but I urge people to go back and look at the support that bill had at the time that it was passed. Again, I'm not defending it. The entire Black caucus was for that bill. You had Black community leaders that wanted that bill passed. So, it didn't age well, and it's really easy to Monday morning quarterback it. And we should. This is the thing we should Monday morning quarterback. I just urge people to go back. That is something that Biden gets hit for.
Oh, I had a unilateral. I don't hit him for the 1994 decision. I hit him for 2016 standing by it.
Standing by, yeah. And as well you should, and I agree with you on that. In 94, everybody wanted that bill. And
of course, and it's the way it was sold. It's all marketing. I get that. So,
and I think it could have been done better if it was executed well. And unfortunately, you can't execute something that was already set up to fail with a system that, unfortunately had bias in it and at the local level. And that's something that also I look at as like, we need to be strict on crime, but at the same time, we needed to have that training. Like we always say, not defund, but refund and reinvest in the right areas. Training for the people that are either policing in in positions of power that are in the community, because that's the only way we can have effective enforcement of laws from our government by the local level.
Right. So I'm going to really quick, Casey, I'm going to bring up Melanie's question. And this is actually in a direct relation. It's interesting. I had another Facebook discussion the other day with somebody that was like, I stand by Biden because, and he shared Biden's platform, which is really the Democratic platform. It's so many things that I get, like, it's what I guarantee you Trump wants the exact same things, but it's just not practical. You can't pay for everything from the Green New Deal to Medicare to healthcare for all in a perfect sense. And it was a chunk this big. And I go, I get that that's what you want, but that's what a platform is. And you got to find a way to pay for it. It's just not feasible. It's not possible. And his response, and I said, that's very similar to being in middle school and the guy that you're voting for wanting a soda machine in every room and telling you it's going to happen. It's an impossibility. And he goes, well, I'll choose that over a liar. And I go, anybody that overpromises is just a liar in training. It's there. You're going to be saying the same thing in 4 years because it is impossible to imagine it's going to happen. So Melanie brought up this question. This was to you, Jay. Do you support some of his main platforms, which are free college, $15 minimum wage, and federal mask mandate?
Well, first of all,
I don't know if I think by free college, I think she means college repayment and free college because that's part of the whole bill.
Well, Biden spoke out. It was either today or yesterday. I don't remember. It's not a federal mask mandate. It's not possible. All the president can do, and Biden said this very plainly and clearly, is mandate masks on federal property.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure if he said he would do it or not, but he did clarify that he's not even thinking about trying to have a federal mask mandate. So that one we'll just kind of, throw out a little bit because it's not part of the platform. $15 minimum wage. I mean, for me, a lot of our friends around the world, other Western nations, have a proper living wage. So yes, I do support a $15 minimum wage.
Do you know what those other nations are?
Sure. Most of Western Europe, like basically all of Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, all of Scandinavia. I think it's pretty much every country in the world. Every Western country in the world. I'm
going to respectfully disagree. So we actually have a set minimum wage here. In the other countries, a lot of them, and I could be incorrect, but when I've had this same discussion, they have a livable wage. Theirs is a average that is higher than the United States. It's got nothing to do with minimum wage. And remember, we're also a country of fast foods. That's a whole different topic for a different day. Sure. So we've got a lot of businesses that we have starting jobs. In a lot of other countries, their 16-year-olds work for their families. They don't work on the farm. There's a different entrepreneurial mindsets and different family businesses, et cetera. But to say that there's federal minimum wages like a $15 average across the country or something well higher than the United States is a Democratic media speaking point that I have not been able to prove correct. And I've looked it up, and I could be wrong, but if anybody can, I would challenge them. I have not seen that to be an actual statement that is true in any way, shape, or form. Kind of like we're handling coronavirus worse than every place else in the world. It's just not true. It's an inflated system, and we're all handling it in a different way. I challenge you to look that up, Jay.
I will take that challenge. What was the last question there? Oh, free college. I mean, look, there's different levels of free college. Like I certainly support some type of free secondary education. I don't know that I go all the way to just say free college, but some either community college or lower level state schools or something along those lines. There's ways to fund that. We fund a lot of bullshit. We waste a lot of money in this country. And there are many, many, many worse things that we're spending money on currently, rather than giving people some semblance of a free, and it's not free, we're paying for it, secondary education. So sure, I agree with that point somewhat.
I also believe in free college. I don't know what he got into, crack rock. I don't know. He must have been a part of the crime bill. All right, so then the question becomes more on the level of. The question becomes more on the level of college loan repayment forgiveness. What about that? Because I'm for having an in-state option. Curtis, go ahead.
This one thing, and it's a free college, I believe. What he's talking about is 2 years of community college or other high-quality training program without debt for any hardworking individual looking to learn and improve their skills to keep up with the changing nature of work. This is something that I do believe I like a lot. Not the 4-year free colleges or whatever. That's where it gets skewed, because he's not talking about you going to Yale for free, you going to Georgia State University for free. He's talking about community colleges and higher quality training programs. Now, one thing I will say in America that I see, and it's a problem to me, is and Obama tried to implement this, is training for real skills, for what do we call it? Vocational skills. And I'm not talking about just, and again, this is nothing knocking plumbers, craftsmen, and those are real skills. You always need those, and those people I appreciate and love and all that, but we need more people. And this is me from hiring people for the company that I own. It's tough. We don't have enough Americans that have the technical skills that we need. And this is just from looking at it of, we don't have the right training that we can get to the people that need it to be able to get past it. And I think if you're offering training that's going to give people a way to work a job and actually help make themselves something, I like the idea of giving, that type of training out to the community, because it's going to increase our job preparedness. And America is behind. This is one thing also and it goes into it, is we keep fighting for jobs that are going to go away by AI. And we keep saying it's China. We keep saying it's India. It is not. It is the scientists making AI, and AI is going to replace a lot of these regular jobs that we keep fighting for. And we're not preparing the youth in the future of America for the AI that's going to come in, and where we can have other jobs in jobs that are going to be good.
That's a progressive, and we have to figure out
that we don't do enough, and we haven't done this entire administration. And
we haven't done that in the history of the United States. Like
Obama tried this, but again, he didn't. He tried to get community technical school for the community. He proposed that, and again, you can't pass everything through a pen. You got to have the government, and that's why the Congress is very important, because we should come together on this. And I understand saving jobs for people, bringing jobs back, but at the same time, we got to get out of this. America, we have to be future thinkers, and that's where our jobs got to come from. We need the education.
That would have been good. That might be a good speaking point for VP debate topics. Last question, because I keep adding it. So we're still not answering the question, because this is still a partial Biden speaking point. This is an Elizabeth Warren speaking point. This was a Bernie speaking point. This is a far left speaking point that he is not been completely opposed to, and that is a repayment of student loans.
I'm down with a little bit of help, because that will actually stimulate the economy way more. I've heard of people since their student loans been paused, they've been able to invest more money. They've been able to repay their loans and credit cards off, and they've been able to.
That's a pause.
Invest. I'm just saying, a pause because that money now has been reallocated to stimulate the economy. And if you look at how much interest rates I paid mine every month. I paid more in interest rates. I'm going to pay at least almost 1.5 times what I've owed, what I borrowed. And I look at it as, I don't mind paying my loans. I shouldn't be paying interest on loans for education. So I think if you take the interest out, we should pay what we borrow.
There we go. I have the same concept. I don't think any consideration of stimulus that's just not America to me. And I'll call on Casey and Jay on this one. But that dog is angry and my hand is cut up. He's actually outside right now. So this is where I finally made the decision, because I'm like, am I being selfish? I've already repaid all my student loans. I've repaid everything. Am I being selfish? No. And then I saw this. There was a father speaking to Elizabeth Warren several months ago when she was still running, saying, how in the hell, he stopped her. He goes, how in the hell is that fair? He goes, I spent 10 years when my daughter was going through college, not taking family vacations, paying for my daughter's education, paying for all these different things, and making sure she got through and didn't have student loans. And then up the street, they had people buying boats, new houses, going on family vacations. And now their daughter or son gets to completely have that taken off the record. And they get to start from scratch. That's unfair. And to say, oh, is that unfair? No, that's 10 years of somebody's life. That's 20 years of somebody's life. That's not America. That is not the American way. And then you look at somebody like me, or somebody that didn't even go to college, that is now paying for somebody else's education. No. With that said, our politicians love to go either here or here, and I don't have a middle ground. Why can't they go, you know what? No interest payments. That makes sense. Let's ditch the interest payments. Let's find a way to subsidize that in the government. That's how we are taking unfair advantage of people, and then go from there. Casey, Jay, what do you think?
So let me go real quick, Jay. So I'm a little bit in the middle here, as a lot of politics I fall in. My big thing around this is no interest payments. I'm okay with that within reason. You got to look at some things. I know personally people that have changed their degrees like every other year they were in college. And so you're just racking up cost because it's free money practically from the government. And then eventually you're hoping to get to that mark to where it just gets wiped out. That stuff is what we need to control in some fashion. The other thing that I am ultimately concerned about, more money you make available, the colleges will eat it up. Very similar to why I feel healthcare is so expensive, is that you make insurance so available for everybody, you're going to just easily drive up our costs. And so I think there needs to be some limitation in there. But for interest-free payments, cool. I'm down with working with that. I'm also okay with doing free college for your associates in 1 degree, 2 years or something short to help you progress and figure out where you're going, but no farther than that. We got to have limitations. We can't say just forever or what we keep approving you for, because the government can loan out as much money as they want and they'll put you in debt for the rest of your life. And we shouldn't be allowing teenagers to make that decision, because it will never be the logical one.
And my biggest fear is, I don't know if Biden stands by it, but I don't know if Biden, if he wins, if he's going to make it very long. Kamala is a little further on that left side, and things can start getting pushed. And right now, we don't know which way the Congress is going to go. It really could go it could end up being all left. It could end up being all right. It could go either way right now. And if it goes far left, I have a feeling that's going to be passed. And that's one of my biggest sticking points, because I think that is the most un-American thing that we could possibly do. Jay, what do you think?
I think, listen, I agree. I think we're all on the same page here about what we think would be sort of right and fair and all that good stuff. But I do think that this entire philosophical difference, for anyone, watching or listening that doesn't agree with any of this, I mean, reduction ad infinitum, this just comes down to sort of trickle up versus trickle down economics, right? Like, we bail out companies that are too big to fail. And I know Casey hates that. I'm positive Casey hates that. I know that. But if corporations are big enough to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on when they get themselves in trouble, to all of our points, what we all agree with here, why can't we forgive interest on people's student loans when the economy's in trouble like this? I mean, it's philosophically, it's the correct thing to do. I think it's just I should say morally and ethically, it's the correct thing to do right now to stimulate the economy. I think it's the best thing to do for America. That should not be a liberal versus conservative versus libertarian versus whatever issue. It feels like the right thing to do.
They push it so far to the extremes. But let's also not forget the bailouts happened during Obama.
I know. And Bush.
Well, yeah.
Both.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I mean, if you look at it, America's
Didn't
been
really
born
happen
out
during
of
Bush.
big
It happened
companies.
during Obama.
when did Obama take over?
When it
January.
was trash.
January
Right
20.
as it's happening. It was like right during transition, so it's hard to blame either side.
Is
Yeah.
there, okay. I thought it was a little further
It's
into
not that we
Obama.
blaming
I
the
could be
side
wrong.
because businesses are making money. If you look at the tax bill, Amazon paid almost $0 in taxes on over $11 billion. I'm just saying, Amazon is very smart. I don't fault
So-
them, but there are some loopholes.
They
in there.
literally
Because
employed
I
the
pay
living
more
crap out of
taxes
the country.
than I usually do because
So
he's
who's
All right,
an independent
Let's
contractor.
move on, guys.
I'm
Let's
just
move
saying.
on.
But anyway, one thing, Anthony.
Yeah.
Somebody said this. Where'd it go? ACA sucks. Can't even choose from different companies because they pulled out. And I just want you to understand the reason they pulled out was because your state did not join the ACA to create their own exchange for themselves. And this is one thing I just found out and learned when I moved from Georgia to New York. Georgia did not join. New York did join. My opportunity for health insurance in Georgia disappeared. My opportunity for New York when I moved here blossomed. And I go, how in the world is there more opportunities for health insurance? You still got to pay for it. That's one thing. It's not free. You still got to pay for it because Medicaid is free no matter where you are. That's going to happen. But you still got to pay for it. But how did it get better and more opportunities in New York? I talked to an insurance friend. They said, Curtis, and they worked at never mind. They worked somewhere, and they said, Curtis, the reason we had to pull out of Georgia is because Georgia didn't create its own rates for the citizens of Georgia. The reason we're in New York City is because New York State created their own rates. And I go, well, that's not what I heard about the ACA. He goes, no. He said, because the ACA was meant for the states to create their own exchanges for themselves based off their state. And that's why I was like, oh my God, that's extremely smart. We can build on that because there's some things I don't want to pay for in the ACA. But at the same time, I go, this is something that makes sense because if the states have their own power, which is what we want, what I would think Republicans want, then the states have more power to make their own choices for the people that live there instead of an overarching government. And you get that government trickle down insurance that's not that great and it's probably more expensive. And I go, this is what's going on. So that's one thing I just wanted to point out because she said that. I'm like, a lot of people don't understand. It is based off of a Republican plan because it's to give the states the power.
It was Romney's.
That's what people forget.
It was Romney's plan.
Yeah.
Please don't bring up anything like Romney. Makes me want to vomit.
All right, let's go to Trump and the coronavirus, and that'll probably bring us a little bit into the debate topics because you know that's going to be covered. Trump versus Corona. So Trump has always talked about he's downplayed Corona. He even talked about the gigantic mass and made fun of Biden. He got sick with Corona. He got to have every medical doctor at his disposal and every sample, whatever the heck.
Treatments that aren't available to Americans.
I have Trump supporters and I've got anti-Trumpers that are also on the side of he never had COVID. I don't know if he had COVID or not, to be totally honest. I mean, to me, unlike Jay, I think whether Trump's a great speaker or not, I think he's the best chess player in the history of American politics, in my personal opinion. He won the first election against complete all odds, and I think that it was all based on strategy and playing to a base, and that's why I don't doubt anything that happens. There's also the philosophy that everybody that was sitting in that cluster, could this have been an attack on certain people? I mean, it's a cluster. It doesn't actually go with quite the way that this spreads. It doesn't make total sense. So there's a lot of questions behind it. I actually have absolutely no idea how I feel about it. So I'll have Jay go. You go first.
I mean, I think it goes against Trump's character, to fake something like this in multiple different ways. Like, as low as I think the man is, I don't think he's that low. I think it would be horrific if any sitting president or go all the way down the government to pretend you have this deadly disease and people are going to argue about how deadly it is. Whatever. We know over 200,000 Americans have died from it, and many more, 800,000 plus around the world. It's a thing. I do not think that he faked it. I just think that would be horrific if he faked it. So I hope whoever it is who's saying that to you is wrong, because I wouldn't even know what to say if this was all a ruse and a ploy. That would be fucking horrible if he did that. Secondly,
if it's not a ruse and a ploy, what do you think of the fact that he got it? And it's seemingly at this point, again, it's early, but seemingly like, and again, he had great treatment.
Yeah.
What does that say about the virus if he was able at the age of 72, a little bit overweight?
I think it's the definition of an anecdotal piece of evidence. It says absolutely nothing. It's one
answer.
It's
I agree with you on
that. Person with the best health ever. Would be healthcare, best healthcare you can ever get.
And that's fine. He's the president. He should get the best healthcare. You know what I mean?
Which I agree. I agree. And people were like, well, he got all these special treatments. He is the president of the free world. And there was, although people weren't necessarily as a whole celebrating, there was a solid minority on the left that were very happy that he got sick.
It's poetic justice. Not justice. It's poetic irony that he got sick. You're talking about a guy who's flouted the rules, who downplayed the American public. Who
better change your words. I agree.
It's not justice because look, I wish him well, and obviously everybody feels the same way. You know, we hope he gets better and nothing bad happens to any people. But he's his own super spreader, taking his Secret Service out for a fucking joyride while he's in the hospital. Right.
I think so. This is where I'm going to respectfully disagree because everybody making that a big deal. Those Secret Service agents are with him 24/7, no matter what he's sick with. They've even vocally given a report on their end saying we're with him all the time. We've chosen to protect our president. It's such a funny thing. Their job is literally to take a bullet for the president. That is in the bylaws of being Secret Service. And we're like, oh my God, he put them at risk for corona.
He's not usually to take a bullet that he shoots.
He's not the one shooting it.
Or a bullet that's shooting at him. That's all I'm saying. I know they have to do their job. They're Secret Service. They signed up for it, right? It's just like if the military is there to support me and protect me, or the police are there to protect me. I'm not going to go and be out there coughing on the police.
So should they not be protecting him in his room all day?
No. This is my thing. He could be in a room and they don't have to be in there because it's secure.
To be in. He has to.
I'm saying at the same time he doesn't have to be even more at risk for other things. Now, to your point, Anthony, they're going to be in the room, right? They're going to be whatever they got to be, and they're going to have to hopefully do their right social distancing and the protective wear. But when I look at this and I see it, this is something that, and this is a little bit different. I'm at the honesty of how in the world did our president get it? If we have the best of everything and he gets COVID, that means they are not doing what it takes to keep the president safe. And if there's a biological attack, he could potentially fall to that because they're not doing enough to protect him. And that's where my mind goes. Cause I'm like, in the future, if I'm looking at something, and this is not like worst case ever, but this is honestly something that's real. Some people think this is a biological attack. And my thing, I'm just like, I would like for America to keep our president as safe as we can by making sure nothing like this gets to him. If it gets to him, that's just says something for me about our security protocols. And if the NBA can play can play in the bubble and basketball rub up against people and nobody gets COVID, how does our president get it, who has the best security, best protocols and everything in the world, supposedly?
Right. Well, you can't, that's I think everybody, a lot of the side of we're all going to get coronavirus at one point anyways. I think that's their point. Like there's no way to, it's just like cancer. Your body always has cancer in it. COVID can be entered at it can enter in any way, shape, or form possible. And if your immune system in that moment is just weak enough where the receptor hits, you can't fight it. It can come from wherever, which again, now the other question, Jay, what's your feeling on masks?
What does it matter what my feelings are? I listen to the science. Screw my.
Okay. So what's your feeling on masks?
Listen, when was the last time you went to the dentist or the doctor? You ever had surgery? They've been wearing them for years, decades and decades and decades.
You're not answering my question. Stop diverting, Jay. What's your opinion on masks?
I'm getting there. At the very least, they help to mitigate the spread of all viruses, diseases, things of that. Not diseases, excuse me. Viruses, things of that nature. At the very least, they are doing something.
Agreed. Okay, I think they're doing something absolutely. But people
take it off.
But also, everybody was wearing a mask in the car.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. You mean the car where he went for his little joyride?
But that's not. But again, masks aren't protecting everything.
Also, let's not get away from the horrible optics of this. You've got people whose grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, all this, who had to die alone, who sat in hospitals and couldn't see their family for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I know he's the president. Think about the fucking optics for once in your life.
I do. And the optics to me show a sign of, and this is me, and I get why you have a different opinion. It shows me the strength of a president of saying, screw this, I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to support the American public.
I disagree wholeheartedly. I think
he have done that by just working.
Yeah, I disagree.
He did, and there's photos of him working. And then he sent 250 pizzas to his supporter. To me, it's amazing the way it's portrayed in two different mirrors. And it is one of those ones that's just drastically, to me, overinflated on how big of it. The fact that was such a big deal on mainstream media boggles my mind. It was literally
the White House, for Christ's sake. We know what's happening. Half the White House.
Obama wore a brown suit, and people said that was the horrible.
And it looks like nobody's going to die.
We don't know.
Here's the thing that no one else is talking about at the same time. Who knows the technology in that Secret Service car?
It's hermetically sealed. We know that. We do know it's hermetically sealed.
Right. But he is sitting in the back seat. Most likely they have air blowing on to push air into the back anyways, right? How long was he in the car? Is anything going to circulate? And what is the cabin air filter like? Does that actually clear things out? Those are all things that come into variable and can limit the chance, along with them all wearing a mask at the exact same time. I just hate the fact that this is blown up to even be a conversation. Is it relevant to today? No. Let's move on and let's solve problems and really drive to how we're going to make our country better. Talking about a car and our president being in it, great. I'm just glad you're alive. Thank you. That's all it is.
So, I think 100%.
And I think it was pointless. Who brought it up? The liberal.
I think it was pointless to do it. That's all I gotta say.
But it's a bit. I'm kidding.
About some stimulus
that was a low blow.
Instead of driving and buying pizzas.
Here's the thing, though. So what I did last night, I wanted to have some fun. I watched CNN and was it last night? Yeah. I watched CNN for an hour, and then I watched Fox News for an hour, and them showing him on the balcony and him giving the speech to the American public, which I found to be a moment of strength personally. You were watching, they were calling it on CNN crimes against humanity. They use those words. They were saying that what he is doing to the American public, I don't think they use the word genocide, but they referred to it almost as a mass killing event. The way that he's downplayed it and being rude to all these people. And I'm going to gaslight you real quick, Jay, because you brought up the whole people dying with their family. So I'm going to admittedly gaslight this. Yes. And at the same token, we've picked and chose some really weird situations and some unfortunate ones. George Floyd, who was not a lifelong great human being that died in an incredibly sad situation, also had a gold casket and had celebrities attend his funeral. So we've picked and chose some really fucking interesting moments to give carte blanche. And if anybody does get carte blanche, to me, it's the president of the United States of America.
But George Floyd's not the president, so I can't even be close.
Right. And to me, the president doing a drive around in a sealed car with two human beings, showing his supporters and giving out 250 pizzas or delivering them, to me is a non-issue in comparison. When you bring up the phrase, there's all these people dying alone, which I know is incredibly sad, and I could not agree more. This just it's not in the same breath of a speaking point. He got a fucking helicopter to get to the hospital.
George Floyd is dead. President Trump isn't. So there's also two differences right there.
So why is it a conversation point?
But it's not you brought it up.
Right. It's called gaslighting. All right, moving on. See what I did there? All right. Anything else with him having the coronavirus? So yeah, just watching the two last night. His speech in front, they referred to him how irresponsible to take his mask off. I just don't get the mask thing. To me, boggles my mind. I had somebody share a post that was taken down. That's funny.
Welcome to my life.
I had somebody share something about masks, and it was done by a actual scientist. They shared it. Facebook took it down. Said it was a violation of community standards. I saw the post, and I'm like, this is another scientist explaining why masks are not what we think they are. And they never once said in there we should not wear them. They explained why they could also be dangerous and why they could be ineffective. I think this is information that American public should be allowed to actually at least read. And I think it's mind-boggling that they're downplaying it. Personally, I have started to become a fan of not wearing. I mean, I wear them when I'm required to. And I know that a lot of my friends are going to hate this. I've become a believer that we're on the path of becoming communist China at this point. So I'm starting to get a little extreme on that. I think it's getting absurd. It's getting absurd. We're at events in the outdoors now and being told that we have to wear, even if we're 10 feet away from each other, wear masks. And it's like, we've gone so off the rails on the need for these things. And then when you watch everybody that is making the rules do it, adjusting, moving, doing all these things. And honestly, I don't believe the science is actually with masks being more than mitigation. I don't think it's protection in any way, shape, or form. I think it's like if we were to use condoms and say that it helps about 15% keep it away. Like, would you still wear it? Maybe it's a little bit of a help, I guess. I don't know, but it's not like it is not that 99% bull crap that we were fed at one point. Mitigating safety. I think that's false sense of security, and that's why I've started to get really sick of it, and I don't see an end of it. Which again, I'm a firm believer that we're all going to get coronavirus at one point.
This is a very American problem.
Very much so.
But my freedoms are being. I mean, I just roll my eyes at that. Not at you, Anthony. Just at the idea. Everyone else is playing along. Everyone else.
Say that. No, they're not. They're not. And again, I've talked to. I literally just had this conversation with somebody from Australia, and they are over it. They are literally saying the same thing. They're a lot of the what's that?
They're over it, but they're still. I'm over it too. Of course,
they're doing it because they're trapped in their house and they're getting fines and violations. If that happened in the United States, we'd go berserk. And a lot of them are still fighting the power. It's happening all over the world. And for once, our media has become like Chinese, like a communist news. We don't get to see what's happening. We don't realize that Germany.
Never see what's happening.
Yeah, we do. We've always seen what's happening in other countries.
Americans know actually the president of France.
They don't pay attention to it, but we see it. There's
a war going on in Azerbaijan right now with another one. There's civil unrest going on.
There's no media covering anything across the world right now. Our media is not covering, and they usually do. It's at least a segment. We have 0 segments letting us know that France, Australia, they're having marches. They're protesting mask wearing. They're protesting the lockdowns. And we think we're being American and being assholes. It's happening all over the world. And for the first time, our media is not letting us see that the whole world is in agreement that we are pushing the envelope on the freedoms of not just America, but of humanity.
I know that there are other places in the world that are protesting certain things. I'm not aware of anyone protesting masks.
They are definitely protesting masks in other countries.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah. I did see that on Google, but I will say overall, from when I lived in France, and we've all traveled. I don't know about you, Casey. You might have, might not. I don't want to assume, but I have definitely, not heard when I talk to other Americans, they have known anything what's going on in other countries, and unless you stay up to 3 a.m., you can watch it on CNN or Fox. They'll have that London correspondent that comes on because ain't nobody awake, and I am, unfortunately. But I've never. Our media, I think, has been the worst at showing it. They show some, but I do agree with you, Anthony. Our media definitely is not showing any other marches. They did show some of the marches for Black Lives Matter stuff. They were showing France and the other places.
Exactly. Why would they show that?
Well, of course, why would we show that?
It fits the narrative of what they want people to see. We are ignoring the rest of the world. And the last time we got national news was the protests in Hong Kong. And then our country started to get shut down, and we have not heard a single thing about the rest of the world.
Hong Kong has definitely flipped the script. China owns that, and everybody has left. That should be something we should be absolutely terrified by, and we're not talking about it. So anyways, we're kind of going over the coronavirus. We're going to wrap it up on the VP debate topics. What do you guys want to hear tomorrow night? Let's start with Curtis. Honestly, to be honest, it don't matter. It don't even matter. they gonna do nothing but be a coronavirus task force leader and do nothing, and not even talk most of the time. And if Harris gets it, she's gonna be the exact same thing, unless one of those guys die because they're both old, and that person then will take over. So that is something to think about. But honestly, their policy, what is their policy? You know, I look at it and I'm just kind of like, they can't sign it or veto it. So I want to listen and get educated on it, but at the same time, it doesn't hold as much weight for me.
Gotcha.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm not a big VP debate fan. This is going to be the most watched VP debate in history, though. Let's go, Casey. What are you looking for?
I want leadership. I don't care. You're running for number 2 of our country, and they need to do it. The part that I'm not excited for is Pence is kind of a little turtle in a shell. Like, he doesn't talk a whole lot. And Kamala Harris is going to walk all over him if he doesn't speak up. And I hope he does. I hope he finds his inner Trump a little bit into where he can fight back. I don't think he's going to. I honestly want more people on that stage than 2. But overall, I'm not expecting a whole lot out of it other than Kamala is going to just probably walk all over him unless I see a Pence that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, Kamala's good in debates, no doubt about it. She's also good as a district attorney and making sure people stay in prison for a long time.
Full page ads out.
Yeah, I think it's an important debate for one very specific reason, because one of them could very potentially be the leader of the free world very soon. And I think that's why it's important. So I'm watching, obviously, because I think it's important, and I think that I want to see if Pence could challenge Kamala's record. I want to see him actually, do something that our previous moderator didn't do to Biden and ask the hard questions. I'm hoping Pence shows a side that I don't typically expect, but I think they're both going to show a little bit more civility. But yeah, I think it's incredibly important to challenge even Biden's ideals, which are BLM, challenge Kamala's point where she said they should continue to, she didn't say the word protest or riot. She just said there's going to be continued unrest until the election, which I think to me is actually a sign of destruction and a virtue signaling, maybe not a dog whistle. That's more of a rallying cry for more destruction. So I want to see if Pence can challenge her. Is anybody who's moderating? Do we know? Who is it?
No, I don't know.
Not Chris Harris. What was his name?
Chris Harrison? Chris Harrison should moderate it. Or was it Chris? Yeah, Christopher Chris Hansen. He should do a Biden one.
There we go.
That's what I'm showing up right now. Jay, what do you actually want to see? I know nothing's going to change any of our minds on who we're voting for, but what do you want to see?
I mean, I think Pence is actually a pretty smart guy. I don't like him, but Pence is actually a pretty intelligent guy. But to Casey's point, he's pretty reserved. So I mean, I fully expect Kamala to just destroy whatever's left of Mike Pence tomorrow. But I also don't think it matters very much, other than what Curtis said, and what everyone's sort of echoing, that one of these two guys might unfortunately pass away in the next 4 years. So it matters in that regard. But VPs don't really have that much power. So I mean, at least in the now, it doesn't matter very much. I think it'll be entertaining more than anything else. And to your point, Anthony, I think it'll be a lot more organized and respectful and all. I mean, you've got these guys are more adults than either of the two people I think the other night. And there's no Trump on that stage. No one is going to do that kind of stuff. But so I like what Aaron said. Kamala's going to get in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Biden, or I'm sorry, if Pence can hold his own. I'm going to be very. That'll be very interesting to me. And I think I just thought of something in my head. This just popped up. So this whole mask thing being a big deal. Biden always wearing it, Trump not. If Trump dies during his presidency, you're not going to be able to find a body double. Like, there's no way that somebody can talk like Trump, look like Trump. Biden, he wears a mask all the damn time, anyways. He could have us stand-in for years without us even knowing.
Those eyes.
You can surgically put those eyes on, my friend.
You're tiptoeing into territory here, Anthony.
I will say this. The VP is important because they break a tie in the Senate. So it is very important because not just if they become president, they can be the deciding factor on a bill that doesn't go to the president. So that could be something, especially looking at how the Congress, which honestly, we talk about Trump and Biden, the most important, and I don't want to say we're getting distracted. The most important is the Congress. The U.S. Congress is the most important because all those guys, I'll say all those guys, most of those guys, have been in there, like Biden, a long time.
Right.
And we keep electing the same people, but different presidents, and think we're going to get different outcomes. That's called insanity, because we keep the same people in the Congress, and we just, I will say one thing about the Congress. I love the South Carolina debate, and I love what the Lincoln Project is doing. I'm sorry, they make me laugh all the time. Say what?
Is that Jamie Harrison?
I have no idea.
I think it is. Yeah.
I just know that's Kellyanne Conway's husband. He's not in there anymore, but that's just a funny thing what they were doing with Lindsey Graham. That was funny.
Yeah. So with all that,
that's a good one. Who pulled that up? What was that?
We actually had the local sheriff. We actually had
Dallas Kelly. See, Kelly's on it. And you were talking about that here. Kelly's on. That is very true.
We actually had him on Changemakers last week, which will take me to my final point. We're skipping Changemakers this week. We're going to do a double Changemakers week later in the month. We've also got Maggie Thorne coming up later in the month from American Ninja Warrior. Pretty cool. She's got a lot of initiatives for Changemakers. Tomorrow night, we're leaving open. We might do a post-debate chit chat. Maybe I'll see if Jay's got nothing to do for about 30 minutes. Maybe we'll bring the crew back for a 30-minute recap, and we'll add it to this podcast. With that said, it's everybody's final words, and then we're going to move on. We did pretty decent on time. Curtis, go ahead. I said that right before I told Curtis to talk. That was stupid.
Oh, it's so funny. I'm going to talk very slow. Ooh, don't interrupt me. Just want to say to continue staying focused on your local elections. If whoever's going out and vote, I'm not just going to say go vote. Like your local election makes very, a lot of importance to your local life, and a lot of people don't take that action to actually read who they are going to vote for. And I can't even blame anybody, because I myself have not done that enough growing up, and so I am taking more action on that. And I urge you all to also just be nice to people and update Regular Hero and the Gratitude Tour. Hopefully going to get Streetlights in this. We're going to be trying to set up Halloween for the children at some hospitals, hopefully around the nation if we can get that, because they're not going to be able to trick or treat, and that would be really cool. We are doing that in Miami. But I'm throwing it out there. So if anybody has a hospital or want to be able to do that, I'm going to partner with Streetlights and Anthony and Cash and figure out a way if they want to be a part of that. But yeah, just want to throw that out there.
Cool. Jay, what do you got?
I would just, to Curtis's point, vote. But I would urge people to look at people's character when you're voting, not just people's platform. I think that this has been the worst week and a half, 2 weeks of the Trump administration, which is really saying a lot. I think, starting with his not just his taxes, the taxes are a red herring. His debt is the way, way, way more dangerous thing. And I think it's worth reading into how dangerous it is for a sitting president to have hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of debt. Not hundreds of billions, billions. I think, don't look at Trump beating coronavirus like he's a superhero, or it means coronavirus isn't deadly. Keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, everybody. Keep social distancing. Keep wearing your masks, Anthony.
I wear them when I'm told to.
Listen, if I took my sister's kids in a car and I drove at a rate of speed that was deadly, and I didn't kill them, you think she's going to let me back in the drive her kids around again? Just because it didn't kill Trump, and I hope it doesn't mean he's not irresponsible. Just look at the facts and realize how irresponsible the man in the White House is.
Yeah, you're talking to a guy that has a child in Omaha from the College World Series in 2016. Moving on. All right, Casey. Hope everybody liked that joke. I hope they're not watching.
She's an amazing daughter,
nobody's listening.
And she's the cutest thing ever.
She's adorable. Literally, I can't wait to do a photo share with her and Woody. Granted, if Woody bites like this, I'm bleeding everywhere. That was a rough night. Casey, you were a new shining star. You've been wanting to be on for a while. I think you proved your point that you deserve to be on the stage, and I look forward to having you on some more, especially as we get closer to the election. And then again, even after the election, we talked about how the Libertarian won the president of the United States of America. Never mind, not going to happen. Go ahead and wrap up.
Well, thank you. And no, Libertarians are not going to win this year, but 2024 for sure. And here's the thing. I agree. Go out and vote. Like, of course, I'm going to come from a different perspective here around it because I have more of just opinion. I just want people to voice their opinion and vote for who they think is right. Yeah, character is important. But Jay also touched on money. Republicans and Democrats have been spending a ridiculous amount of money for 100 years. We have to start cleaning this up and we have to start figuring it out. And I really don't think keep buying into the same system is going to solve it. We got to start looking elsewhere, start getting other people involved. And so the big thing that we need to look at from here is if we can get other parties in the debate stage, it's actually going to bring us more views and help us unite and actually have these nice conversations instead of this extremist, oh, you're this or you're that. We got to start uniting, and we really got to start getting better choices to lead our country. Local is the most important. I didn't touch on that tonight. Thank you, Curtis. That is my thing. I've been saying it and wearing it out for years. But local elections, please show up. Presidential elections, please show up. And just make sure you voice your opinion in general. That's what needs to be done.
Casey, I feel like this is a relative.
Yeah, that's either my stepmom or my dad. One of the two.
Trumpers. Woo! Okay.
I told you my family's not on the same page necessarily, but that's okay.
No, that's great. You did a great job. I want to thank you for it. I'm going to wrap it up with this. Again, the whole general purpose is to have different ideas. I don't always agree with Jay. Don't always agree with Curtis. Don't agree with everything Casey had to say. Actually, ironically enough, I think Casey and I see eye to eye in a lot of things. He just has more of a distaste for Trump. I don't love Donald Trump, but I love him as my president, and I would love to see another 4 years of him. And that's kind of the way that I look at it. But here's the whole concept of Be the Change, which is civility, being kind to each other, etc. I posted something on my personal wall, and this is just the takeaway, because we talked a lot about what we want our politicians to do, and I talk a lot about waiting for Superman is pointless. We got to be kind to each other. We have such a power, and local politics is actually the biggest power that we have, really. And at the end of the day, I just, one of the things I reflected on is we, in my opinion, with Trump, and if we look at some of his failures, I don't think we gave him a fair shake as a country to even start doing his job correctly or give him fair reporting. And I think it's a lot of reporting. I don't think it's that's just Jay saying I hate Donald Trump. I think it's he from day one was attacked. And I think there does need to be, whether Biden wins or Trump wins again, just 20 minutes of allowing the president to do his job without instant attacks. Trump did not get it. I don't think Obama necessarily got it in his second term. I think he did in his first, but that's a different topic for a different day. One thing I did say for a core change from people, and this is directed towards teachers. I put something on my wall right before the show. There's a 25-minute audio of a Honduran legal immigrant parent that's a Trump supporter, and their 10-year-old is a Trump supporter. And the teacher, she had audio recording because they asked the students somebody that they admired, which he changed the story to that he was asking for a computer scientist that he admired. But then he said, or a community leader, which technically there is no bigger community leader than the president of the United States. Slammed the kid and Donald Trump because he put Donald Trump. He said Donald Trump's a great president because he cares. He wants to make America great and keep America great. And he's building a wall that keeps terrorists out. I mean, that's one way to describe the wall. You could describe it in a lot of different levels, etc. But he literally just lambasted the kid's opinion. And he said, how did he say it? He said that Trump is exactly why the country is so divided. He's a very divisive person, and he's all these different things. And then when he talked to the parent, he changed his story, not knowing that she recorded it. And he said, well, I just didn't want the kids fighting and this, that, and the other. I don't want them talking about politics. That should have been what he said to the kids. That's fair. He wanted to bring it back to center. If you're a parent, you are allowed to impress your ideas onto your children. That's part of being a parent. If you are an educator in a public or even private arena, your job is to allow free thought. And when it gets to a point where kids are fighting, you pull back the reins, not by disagreeing with them, no matter what your ideals are. You pull back the reins by simply saying this isn't the place for this conversation. I appreciate everybody's freedom of thought. You do not tell a kid they are wrong, especially not a 10-year-old, especially as a completely, what I believe was a Caucasian teacher having the conversation with a illegal immigrant from Honduras that loved Donald Trump. I think that's the most ridiculous thing. We have a responsibility as teachers. There's a lot of them out there, and this is on a digital platform. Allow freedom of thought. And if it gets in the way of your classroom, just say, let's not talk about politics. Do not impress your ideas. You're raising a country of children that will feel guilty in either way. And that goes, and I said the same thing if the kid was talking about Biden. If you're a Trump supporting teacher, let the kid think that way. Let the kid have their own belief system. Do not tell them wrong, because you have a huge responsibility. And that's all I got to say. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Please help support us. Again, the Patreon is on the bottom. I would love to just cover our basic costs on this. And soon you guys will see me in my RV going across the country. What's the last thing I want to share with you guys?
2020 flag all on it.
I'm not putting that on there because it will be destroyed depending on some of the states that I go to. Make sure you follow the YouTube page, youtube.com/C/BeTheChange USA. Need as many subscribers on there as possible. We are pushing for investment, and that's the key behind it. So I would love to get any help. That doesn't cost you guys any money. Subscribers are huge. Patreon helps me out more than you guys even know. And so does Bing Bag Duels, Face Smack, White Glove, initiate the challenge. I like it. I miss you, Aaron. If you'd like to check out merchandise, go to #BeTheChange.com. Click on shop. Again, we've got mugs, T-shirts. I've done all the sales stuff. I love you guys. Please help us out.
All right, that's funny. That's funny.
I'm not doing a transition to power. This coronavirus is acting up for a long time.
That's right,
Hey,
that's
even
funny.
coronavirus didn't choose Joe Biden.
Dang.
Yes, sir.
Or did Joe Biden